Thank you very much. Please be advised that this meeting is being live streamed and will be archived. Also, would you please turn off all cell phones? Thank you. Approval of agenda, that the agenda for the regular board meeting of October 22nd, 2019 be approved. Moved by Trustee Cosmerly, seconded by Trustee Clement. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Preliminary declarations of pecuniary interest. We have a presentation today that we should all find very interesting. So I'm going to turn it over to the director to introduce the presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, thank you. So, okay, is that better? Okay, thank you. Our presentation today is timely in that I think it's imperative that trustees have an understanding of the variety of programs that we provide throughout the Rainbow District School Board. Some of them are through ministry partnerships, and some of them are through the initiatives of the Rainbow District School Board. So it's one of the few, I can't remember how long it's been since we've actually provided this sort of information, but I think it's rather timely because it speaks to our involvement with other stakeholders as well. And so as we go through this, and we're going to have both Superintendents Wachnock and Noble go through these, it's really interesting to see who the partnerships are, who these programs are for, and what they entail and how they're supported. And of course, as we go through it, I would request that if you have questions, you please ask, because you will see that we have so many of them that in order to recall which one you're going to speak to, it might be a bit of a challenge. So again, I'm very pleased to have both of our superintendents to provide this to you this afternoon, and I think we're going to be starting with Superintendent Wachnock. Okay, thank you.
Superintendent Noble and I are pleased to have the opportunity to speak to you about a number of amazing programs we have in the Rainbow District School Board. Some of these programs are care, treatment, custody, and correctional programs, or what we refer to as CTCC programs, which means that they are funded by the Ministry of Education and at least one other ministry. Other alternative programs we have within Rainbow are funded through the GSNs. These alternative programs were mainly created to fill a gap that exists within our community to ensure that students are being provided with an education and they have the supports that they need to achieve success. As Director Blasek indicated, we're happy to take questions throughout the presentation as well as at the end. CTCC education programs in care and or treatment, custody, and correctional facilities are based on section agreements that are renewed yearly and submitted to the Ministry of Education on August 31st. The programs are monitored in a 3-year cycle by the Ministry of Education. An education officer from the Field Services branch visits each program, observes, meets with the staff and the section agreement partner or partners, and completes a monitoring report. For some of these programs, Rainbow's Admission Demission Review Committee, which we refer to as the ARD Committee, determines which students are admitted and demitted. School principals, with the help of their resource teachers, prepare student files for prospective placements in these programs. The ARD Committee meets 4 to 5 times a year to review the files and determine admissions based on the needs of the system. The committee also reviews student files from the schools to determine if the student is ready for demission. The ARD Committee is comprised of the Principal of Special Education, special education coordinators and consultants, psychologists, social workers, ABA team members, and secondary and elementary school principals. The Child and Adolescent Mental Health, our CAMP program, is located in
Through you, Madam Chair, Superintendent Wojcik, just wondering, just before you get into the specific programs, are these all Rainbow students that are being served, or are these kids from any board or any area?
For the most part, they are all Rainbow students. You will see as I go along in the presentation, there are some programs that also include students from Sudbury Catholic District School Board.
Okay, because my secondary question, if I could, Madam Chair, supplementary,
Yes.
are these programs unique to Rainbow in our area, or are the other boards offering the same programs?
A little bit of both. So our CAMP program is located in Health Sciences North. The program serves students aged 6 to 17 who are admitted to hospital for mental health reasons. There are currently 4 students in the classroom, but the numbers change on a daily basis depending on hospital admissions and demissions. The average length of stay for a student in the CAMP classroom is 5 days. The classroom is staffed with a teacher and an educational assistant, as well as an HSN child and youth worker. A mental health nurse facilitates the demission process by assisting in the transition of the student back to their home school. This program is funded by the Ministry of Education and serves students from the 2 English boards, Rainbow District School Board and Sudbury Catholic District School Board. This program also exists for the 2 French coterminous boards.
Sorry, Trustee Cosmerly.
Through you, Madam Chair, are referrals to this program made by the nurses on the floor or by the doctor? Who would make the referral for this, for the education program, so that you're even aware of the young people?
Through you, Madam Chair. So the students that are, or the children that are admitted to hospital are admitted through doctors to the hospital. They have a hospital bed during their stay, and when the medical team decides, or if they decide, whether the child is, whether it's in their best interest to attend the CAMP classroom or not. So on occasion, there are children admitted to hospital who the medical team at HSN recommends that they do not enter the classroom. It's rare, but it does happen. Most of them do enter the CAMP classroom. The Children's Treatment Center, CTC, is located at Health Sciences North as well. The students range from 3.8 to 7 years old. These students have been typically receiving supports from CTC prior to becoming school-aged and require intensive physiotherapy and/or speech and language on a daily basis for a significant block of time. HSN is the decision maker of what students are in the program based on their physical and language needs. The program always runs at its enrollment capacity of 12 students in total, 6 who attend in the mornings and 6 who attend in the afternoons. The students attend their home school the other half day. Transportation is provided midday through the consortium. The classroom staff consists of a Rainbow teacher and a Rainbow educational assistant funded through the Ministry of Education. The HSN professionals withdraw the students from the classroom for their daily therapy. The students attending the CTC program are from the 2 English school boards, Rainbow and Sudbury Catholic. However, the program also exists for our 2 coterminous French boards. The Shiloh program teaches students who have developmental disabilities the skills to live independently. The Children's Treatment Center provides physiotherapy and occupational therapy to the students who require it, and Sudbury Developmental Services provides supports for the students to spend several nights at the program throughout the year. The focus is on activities of daily living, social skills, and life skills. These include learning how to cook and clean, learning how to take public transportation, and learning how to balance a budget. The students participate in many field trips to learn how to implement these skills successfully. For example, they attend the YMCA on a regular basis to learn the importance of physical activity and maintaining a healthy lifestyle. They also shop at local grocery stores to learn how to maintain a healthy diet within a fixed budget. These learning opportunities build independence to facilitate the transition to independent, healthy living. The staffing for the Shiloh program is funded through the Ministry of Education. There are 3 rural care and treatment programs located at Little Current Public School, Espanola High School, and Manitoulin Secondary School. Students are admitted to these programs through the Admission-Demission Review Committee, ARD, after parental consent is received. There is often student wait lists for these programs. Rainbow staff deliver the education component, and COMPASS, which is the Child and Family Center, is responsible for the treatment component. The educational assistants implement the treatment plan created and overseen by COMPASS. Regular parent meetings occur to review student progress. The average length of stay in these programs is 18 months. Although the funding for the Rainbow staff is provided by the Ministry of Education, for the most part, Rainbow subsidizes the extra staffing required for teacher prep time. Transportation is provided through the consortium. What I mean by the extra subsidized dollars coming from Rainbow with regards to the staffing is that the ministry funds 1 teacher, but for instance, at the secondary level, in order to have 1 teacher in a classroom, it requires 1.33 teachers. And so Rainbow picks up that prep time.
Trustee Morrison?
I'll ask you about the programs that you've described to this point, Kathy. So now that you've mentioned that, are all of the staffing on all of these then fully funded almost, except for things like prep time? So in every case, when you show a full RDSB teacher and an EA, for example, both of those are funded, fully funded?
Through you, Madam Chair. For the most part, the programs that I am speaking to and indicating that they're funded through the Ministry of Education, they are fully funded through the Ministry of Education. There are a few exceptions where the needs in the classroom may surpass the amount of staffing that there is to support, and in that case, Rainbow may decide to allocate an additional EA for extra support. That is not in the partnership agreement with regards to the section program in the Ministry of Education, and so we would cover that through special education.
Trustee Gibson?
Thank you, through you, Chair Joer. The fact that it requires 1.33 teachers, is that in order to abide by the collective agreement? Is that
Through you,
why we
Madam
have-
Chair, that's correct.
thank
So they teach for 3 sections and they're off for 1.
Trustee Stringer?
Through you, Madam Chair. Just a question about how the elementary programs are provided prep. Are those teachers then that have the qualifications that the classroom teacher has to be covering that prep?
Through you, Madam Chair. So for the most part, the schools are allocated the staffing that it requires to give the teachers prep time. If they're not, they sometimes are creative with the allocation of their cert, but that's on a rare occasion. With regards to the qualifications of the staff that may be perhaps going into these classrooms to relieve the teacher for their prep time, we do require that they have the qualifications with regards to special education part 1 at least. The Early Intervention Section program at Chelmsford Public School is composed of 1 Rainbow teacher and 2 Rainbow educational assistants. The students in the program are between the ages of 5 and 10 years old, and Rainbow's ARD committee determines the admissions and demissions into the classroom. A social worker from Compass supports the students as needed, as well as Rainbow's ABA staff. There is most often a wait list for the program, and the average length of stay is between 12 and 18 months. The students are from the Valley North area. Transportation is provided through the consortium. The classroom teacher and one EA are funded by the Ministry of Education. The other EA in the classroom is funded by the board.
Excuse me. Did you say age 5 to 10?
Yes, sorry, it's wrong on your screen.
Okay.
It should say 10.
Because 11, 12, 13, 14-year-olds are,
So if we think about Chelmsford Public School,
Okay.
it only goes up to grade 6.
thank you very much.
The Social Emotional Support Program at Sudbury Secondary School is funded by the Ministry of Education. The students in the program range in age from 14 to 18 years. The average length of stay in the program is 12 to 18 months. The program is available to Rainbow Secondary School students within the Sudbury area, and transportation is provided. Student admission and demission is through the ARD committee. Social workers, through Rainbow and through Compass, support the students' mental health needs. Our ABA staff is also involved as needed. The program's enrollment capacity is 9 students, and there is often a wait list. The ARD committee decides on the admissions and demissions from the ALT behavior program. The classroom is located at Jean Hansen Public School and consists of a teacher and 2 educational assistants. Parents consent to have their child considered for the ALT program. The program is based on a behavior scale with specific goals that are individual to each student. The average length of stay is 12 months. Students learn strategies on self-regulation and behavior management. There is a large social skills component to the program as well. The Mishko de Wendam program supports students from grades 7 to 12 plus who identify as First Nations and who struggle with mental health or addiction challenges. These students have not successfully engaged in the regular classroom setting and often have issues with attendance. This program allows them to receive their education in a non-traditional setting while infusing cultural experiences into their learning. 2 Rainbow teachers and an educational assistant is funded by the Ministry of Education. The Chicagmic Way Health Center provides a counselor and an elder who participate and support all aspects of their learning. The average length of stay for students in the program is 2 years or more. This is attributed to the non-traditional classroom setting where the students immersed into their culture feel a sense of belonging, as well as the wraparound supports that the health center provides for them. Admission and demission are through the ARD committee, and there is often a wait list for the program.
Trustee Morrison?
Through you, Madam Chair. Superintendent Watchnick, for this program in particular, are most of these kids coming from greater Sudbury area? Are some of them coming from the island, for example, Little Current?
Through you, Madam Chair.
How do we handle housing and the other kinds of supports?
Right, through you, Madam Chair. Yes, they're coming from the Sudbury area. We have in the past had a student coming from the Levack area who was able to take public transportation that we funded to get to the school, which is located on Elm Street. It used to be located on Apple Grove. As long as there's a way that transportation can be arranged, we would make it work. Having said that, the distances in Espanola and Manitoulin are too great for this to be worthwhile.
Supplementary, if I could.
Yes.
So we haven't had to get involved, for example, if there isn't access to programs in those areas to get them here and find boarding and other kinds of supports for kids who are coming from a distance then? We haven't had to do that.
No, we haven't.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Gibson?
Thank you, through you, Chair Dewar. Can you give us an idea of the average length of time that students spend on the wait list, and what sort of supports do they receive while they're on the wait list? Are they just at their regular school, or?
Through you, Madam Chair, the supports that they receive while waiting entrance into the program would differ depending on their individual needs. We may call upon Principal Dokeese to see what she has available with regards to support workers that may be of assistance. It really depends on what their individual needs are. As far as the average length that a student may be on the wait list, that really depends on the system needs as well. But typically, it's less than a school year.
Thank you.
The ABA program is managed by Rainbow's board-certified behavior analyst, Brian Manahan. Students are admitted and demitted through the ARD committee, and there is a wait list for entry into the program. All staff who work in the ABA program have additional training and expertise to work with students who have high behavioral needs. Brian Manahan creates treatment plans with his team and oversees the implementation of these plans in the classroom. The length of stay varies from 6 months to 18 months. Once the student has met the success criteria of their plan and is ready to be reintegrated into their home school, a member of the ABA staff go with the student to support their transition. The program is funded through special education.
Trustee Cosmerly?
You, Madam Chair. Is this strictly for Rainbow students, or is this for the Catholic Board as well?
Through you, Madam Chair, this is strictly a Rainbow District School Board program funded by Rainbow Special Education. This program is not duplicated in our coterminous boards.
Trustee Gibson?
Thank you, through you, Chair Dewar. Have we seen increases in the wait list for this type of program over the last 6 months or so, when we've seen changes to the Ontario Autism Program and these sorts of services not being readily available to people personally? Or are there plans to expand the program based on the fact that those people have sort of been left with little option, I guess? Have you seen an impact in the numbers, I guess is what I'm asking.
Through you, Madam Chair, the numbers in our ABA program this year are the highest that they've ever been. I'm not so sure that that's a direct result of the changes with the Autism Ontario, but I can tell you that the wait list for this program is significant, and the wait time exceeds a school year. However, while they're waiting, we do have other supports that we put in place to support them the best we can in their current setting. The Northern Support Initiative program is funded by the Ministry of Education. The funding is meant to keep children with extreme mental health and behavioral needs in their own community. These students would be otherwise admitted into southern residential treatment facilities outside of our community. The NSI program has many community agency partners who assist with their own individual expertise, as well as one of our own psychologists who oversees the treatment. We started this program in January 2018. The average length of stay will depend on individual student need, but our goal is to transition students as soon as possible to their home school. Rainbow Mental Health and ABA supports have a predominant role in the program. The Restart program is located here at the board office. The program is for students who have been suspended for 6 days or longer or expelled. The program has two components, an academic component and a social-emotional component. The classroom environment is supportive to the unique learning needs of each student. Generally, there are between 5 and 10 students attending the program at a given time. Families are encouraged to become actively involved in all aspects of the student's placement while at Restart. The project leader offers support and referral services to caregivers and families as requested and acts as a liaison between the schools, teachers, and students to ensure schoolwork is received and returned and that expectations are understood by the learner and their family. The social worker provides counseling services to the students and helps them transition back to their home school once they have met the expectations of the program.
Trustee Stringer.
Through you, Madam Chair. Can you tell me a little bit about what Restart looks like in Manitoula and Espanola?
Through you, Madam Chair. So it does look different because we don't have a dedicated classroom in Espanola and Manitoulin Island for those students. However, they still have the two components to the program. So they still have a plan that outlines how they're going to continue their education, and they still have the services of either the attendance counselor or a Rainbow social worker to ensure that that counseling, social, emotional component is also there for them.
Trustee Cosmerly.
Through you, Madam Chair, just one question about capacity. You said generally there's 5 to 10 students in the program. What would be the capacity of the program overall in Sudbury?
Through you, Madam Chair, probably as many as we can fit in the classroom. We've never really had to limit the number before. We figure it out, make room, keeping in mind that the students who attend this program who are on suspension, maybe perhaps attending because they've been suspended 6 days or longer, they're only in for those amount of days, and then they're transitioned back to their school.
Trustee Clement.
Through you, Madam Chair. Going back to what Margaret was saying, when in Espanola and the island area, then that's in-house then, in home, in their home, not in the school.
Through you, Madam Chair. For the most part, it is students learning from their home, but at times we make arrangements for their academics to take place at a public library or somewhere outside of the home if that's what the board and the parent feel is appropriate.
Thank you.
Cecil Facer Secondary School. Located at Cecil Facer Youth Center, this program is intended for male young offenders in secure custody detention and serves to provide educational services for young offenders of school age who are residents of the Cecil Facer Youth Center. Students who have been sentenced or are awaiting sentencing are placed at the Cecil Facer Youth Center by the courts. We partner with the Ministry of Children and Youth Services as well as Corrections. As in all CTCC programs, funding is provided by the Ministry of Education. Here the ministry funds 4 teachers, 1 principal, 3 education assistants, a school secretary, and 4 Section 23 e-learning teachers. Rainbow District School Board has been innovative in providing e-learning to incarcerated students across all detention facilities in Ontario. The ministry has recognized the importance of this e-learning pilot and has continued to fund staff to develop the closed e-learning modules. In other words, modules that do not allow students to access the internet, conditions required to maintain the closed learning environment in the detention center. The enrollment is currently 6 students.
Excuse me. The students at Cecil Facer, they come from all over the north. They're not necessarily within the Rainbow District School Board catchment area. Is that correct?
That is correct. We even get students from Southern Ontario.
Oh,
Sometimes they are trying to break up gangs students from opposing gangs inside a different detention center, so they will house them in a Cecil Facer.
Okay, thank you very much. Oh, Trustee Morrison?
Through you, if I could. Superintendent Noble, is this one of the programs that the ministry asked us to do? Because I know there are a couple of these special alternative programs that we were asked to do. Some we went after, but others we were approached by the ministry to take this on for the area.
This is a program that's been in existence for over 30 years, as long as I've worked for the Rainbow Board. I'm not sure what the prior history is. Maybe, Norm, you're a little bit more aware of that?
No, I inherited it in 2004, and you're right, Superintendent Noble. I'm not sure the origins of why Rainbow is the provider for the educational piece, but obviously there was a connection somewhere.
Again, supplementing and perhaps to Superintendent Watchnick, perhaps it fits into your portfolio, but I know there are some of these specialty programs that we were asked to do that other boards were not asked to do, and there has to be a reason for that. So that's why I'm asking. Thank you.
If I could just offer, the Sudbury Board of Education offered it, and it was much more extensive than it is now. But I know Rainbow Board kind of inherited from them, but I don't know what the start was. There were a lot more, though, students out there.
That's right.
Thank you.
So Frank Flowers is located at Frank Flowers on Bancroft Avenue. This program is intended for youth who have been sentenced to open custody under the Youth Criminal Justice Act. The program provides educational services to young persons of school age in conflict with the law, requiring detention, probation services, and custody services in an environment that is least intrusive, normalized, and success-oriented. Students are placed in the program by the courts. The program is designed for short periods of custody under the following circumstances: intermediate sentencing, awaiting transfer to a long-term custody program, or being admitted to Northern Youth Services from another custody program for up to 15 days due to difficulties in other open custody programs. In other words, a lateral transfer from another custody program. We partner with Northern Youth Services, and as in all CTCC programs, funding is provided by the Ministry of Education. Here, the ministry funds one teacher.
Trustee Cosmerly?
Through you, Madam Chair. Just one question about age. Like, how old would these kids be that would be at Frank Flowers on average?
On average, they're high school age. The Attendance Center is located at the Northern Youth Services on Elm Street. This program is intended for youth who are currently on a term of probation, providing specialized programming and care to young persons of school age in conflict with the law in an environment that is least intrusive, normalized, and success-oriented. Probation Services places students in the program. We partner with Northern Youth Services. As in all CTCC programs, funding is provided by the Ministry of Education. Here, the ministry funds one teacher. Enrollment currently is over capacity at 9 students.
Trustee Cosmerly?
Sorry, I have lots of questions. This is so fascinating. Would these be Rainbow students, or would these be similar to some of the others that they're youth from all over, or from coterminous boards, or who would the students be?
The students that I am aware of typically are from Rainbow, but we do serve students from the coterminous board as well.
Trustee Clement?
The students that you're dealing with, what is the end result here? Is to put them back into schools?
Correct.
So that's the goal. Thank you.
So typically, if a student is on probation or coming out of a custody situation, they may be coming out middle of a semester. And so it's difficult to hope that a student would be successful re-entering their secondary school in the middle of a semester. So this is a program that is a transition program that will get them from their period of custody and to a point where it's a good place for a student to re-enter the regular school. O'Connor Park. Located at 408 Wembley, this program is intended for children and youth in care in grades 9 through 12 who require supports with addictions and mental health and intensive educational interventions to find and achieve a healthy balance in their lives. Students are referred by CAS or KINA to O'Connor Park after experiencing ongoing difficulties in their home school. Students may be coming out of custody and many live in group homes. Students must be involved with our partners, CAS or KINA Gebesgami, to qualify for this program. As in all CTCC programs, funding is provided by the Ministry of Education. Here, the ministry funds 1 teacher, 1 Aboriginal support worker, and 1 education assistant. Enrollment is currently 18 students. Berrydown College. Located at Cambrian College, Berrydown College is a re-engagement high school for students aged 18 to 21 that have yet to earn their secondary school diploma, provided in an alternative adult setting. A continuous intake program. Students walk in to register and need to bring a credit summary or a copy of their transcript. Funding for this program comes through the regular day school register, and additional funding is provided through mature PLAR credits and through the School College Work Initiative in the form of dual credits. Enrollment in the program generates 7 teachers, 1 guidance counselor, 1 Aboriginal support worker, 1 PLAR re-engagement contract teacher, 1 senior office administrator, and 1 principal. This program is offered in partnership with Cambrian College, and there are currently 166.75 full-time equivalent, or 208 students enrolled in the program. Swakopmund. Located at the Swakopmund Friendship Center, the Swakopmund Alternative School is a re-engagement high school for students over 17 that have yet to earn their secondary school diploma, provided in an alternative adult setting. A continuous intake program. Students walk in to register and need to bring a credit summary or a copy of their transcript. Funding for this program comes from the regular day school register. Enrollment in the program generates 1.5 teachers, 1 senior office administrator shared with the adult education. Sudbury Secondary School Administration and Guidance both support this program. This program is offered in partnership with Swakopmund Friendship Center, and there are currently 36 students enrolled in the program.
Trustee Morrison.
Through you, Madam Chair, Superintendent Noble, both Swakopmund, excuse me, are they 2 students who have come from all 4 school boards? Because I know Berrydown, we have students at Berrydown from not just our 4 local coterminous boards, but we've got kids from James Bay, Moosonee, all over, particularly Northern Ontario, that have come in to attend Berrydown.
Yes, students come from all over Northern Ontario to Swakopmund. They can come from Rainbow, they can come from any of our coterminous boards, and they can come from as far away as the James Bay coast.
Okay, thank you. For those of us who attended the Harvest Feast at Berrydown, we got to chat to a couple of kids who were from out of Wapiskat, and then there was the one that had just an international student that had just arrived. And by the way, when you're at Berrydown, anywhere near the Berrydown College, you certainly also see the international student program alive and well. That Cambrian and Bill Best, the college president, came and gave us a presentation on a couple months ago. If you're in Cambrian College, you see it in every corner, you see it against the hallways, these kids. Anyway, so the impact of their international student program is very evident. And I think some of that, there's some cross-learning going on between the Berrydown kids and that international section of students. You can see the exchanges going on in the hallways. Thank you.
Adult education. Located at Sudbury Secondary School, our adult education program is a re-engagement program for students over 21 that have yet to earn their secondary school diploma, provided in an alternative adult setting. A continuous intake program, students walk in to register and need to bring a credit summary, a copy of their transcript. Funding for this program comes through the regular day school register. Enrollment in the program generates 1.5 teachers and 1 senior office administrator shared with Swakopmund. Sudbury Secondary School Administration and Guidance both support this program. There are currently 51 students enrolled in the program.
Trustee Morrison?
Quick question through you, Madam Chair, to Superintendent Noble. The Adult Ed program at Sudbury Secondary has a long history of success, but I'm just wondering, since we've implemented Barrydown College, has there been an impact on the numbers at the Adult Ed program at Sudbury Sec? 'Cause
I
we're
would
trying to
say
reach them
not,
now. Okay.
because 51 students is the largest enrollment that I have yet to see at adult education. I think that Barrydown provides a wonderful start for our students who have disengaged, and in many cases, they are unable to complete their program before they're 21. So you will see a lot of transfers over after the students turn 21 to adult education, because they are so close, they're going to graduate. And the other thing about this program is sometimes we do see that there is a different clientele for adult education. It's located downtown, whereas Barrydown is located out in New Sudbury. So you do see, just because of location, sometimes students want to go to adult education and they'll wait for it.
Supplementary, Madam Chair? That's great news, because, you know, I'm seeing at the graduations, and I've talked about it every year in June at this table, there are about 100 or so kids who are graduating from Barrydown College every year that would never have received their Ontario Secondary School program if we didn't have that program. So I'd like to think, out of the close to 200 real live bodies who are actually enrolled at Barrydown, that those who don't get those credits by 21, that we're continuing to support them, and perhaps just the re-engagement experience that they've had with a fully supportive staff and in an adult location at Cambrian is enough to keep them on that path to return to Sudbury Sec. I hadn't thought about that before, so that's good news. Thank you, Judy.
Trustee Cosmerly and then Trustee Stringer.
Sorry, thank you through you, Madam Chair. For Manitoulin Island and Espanola, do we have any kind of an alternative adult education program offered out there?
We have night school in both locations. So students over the age of 21 are able to attend those programs.
You, Madam Chair?
Trustee Stringer.
I'm just wondering about, well, we know that these students have amongst the highest needs of all of our students in the board. And when I think about section programs, I'm wondering about the stability of those programs and whether we have options or whether you see opportunities for new section programs in the future, or has this been a sort of blanketed, this is what we've got?
Through you, Madam Chair. The Ministry of Education has not given out section programs to school boards in a very long time, many, many years. So what, and I know because I've inquired in the last number of years, and so what the Ministry of Education encourages us to do is just to take a look at the existing section programs within our board, and if a transformation is required, to create a different program with a different rationale to serve a different population, then they support us in doing so for the most part. But it's a lengthy application, and you really need to plead your case, but they do give school boards the opportunity to transform existing programs into different programs that might better meet the needs.
Trustee Stringer.
Supplementary, please. So in terms of programs continuing and the stability of those programs, are the renewals every year? I at one time I knew all this, but are you concerned about the stability of those programs continuing in the future?
Through you, Madam Chair. Don't mean to steal your thunder, Judy. I haven't received any indication that the section programs are perhaps on the chopping block through the Ministry of Education in any way, shape, or form. However, we know as school boards, we don't give up section programs. So if it isn't working the way it's been created or the way it's worked in the past, times change, and sometimes, you know, the needs change with the times. And so again, the ministry would just encourage you to fill out the application that they have to transform the program into something else that better suits your need. But we've never been, I've never had the fear of losing a section program.
Thank you very much. Trustee Clement.
Through you, Madam Chair. The programs are fantastic for all range of children and stuff like this. Do you ever get any, well, there has to be a lot of parent involvement in all of this to get their child in these programs. Do you ever have any feedback from these parents? How they feel, how these programs are working for their child?
So the programs that I'm responsible for are more along the lines of custody, and then the alternative programs which serve adult students. So we get lots of feedback about the students in the adult programs. It's making a difference in their lives. And you hear regularly from trustees who attend graduations, Barry Down, Adult Ed, about the difference that these programs do make in kids' lives. But you hear it from them. Kids in custody, we don't often hear about how they feel about the program that they're in. It might be overshadowed a little bit by the fact that they're in detention. But maybe if I pass it over to Kathy, she can comment on the other kinds of programs.
Just maybe from a different perspective with regards to the alternative programs, more so than the section programs. There is a very large demand for these programs for certain families within our community. They're programs with very intensive support, and so students that have very high needs tend to have much more success in these programs than they would in their regular school or regular classroom. Having said that, we receive interest often from parents of students in other school boards to explore the possibility of their children entering some of these alternative programs. And that's always really difficult, because we need to put, not only do we need to put our rainbow students first, but we don't register, these aren't schools, and we don't register students into these programs. They come from our schools, and then they're presented to the ARD committee, and then the ARD committee makes decisions based on the needs of the entire system. And so when parents who have children in other boards learn that, you know, it isn't just a matter of pulling their child out of one board and putting them in our board, it really is much more complicated than that. And sometimes that's really hard for parents to understand, because they just want the best for their kids. And so it really does take a lot of patience to be able to explain, so that they understand that, you know, it's not because we don't want to help their child, but it is because there is a process in place. And that process needs to be in place, because you heard me say quite often when speaking to a number of these programs that there are wait lists. And some of these wait lists are not short. And so we need to keep that in mind when, you know, when parents call, but we also need to empathize with their situation, because they only want the best for their kids as well.
So are there any other questions? So I want to thank, on behalf of the trustees, I want to thank both of you. And it's really quite amazing, the numbers. I don't think, I mean, I was aware of all of the different programs. Like, you know, I was aware of them. But when I see them compiled like this, it is absolutely amazing. And the fact that these programs, the more programs that we have, the more the impact is on individual students, most students of which would normally be falling through the cracks. these are students that perhaps years ago, we lost them. We just lost them. So this is a real investment in our future, not just for ourselves, but for our kids. It will change the dynamics of their lives. So thank you very much, and thank you to the Director of Education who thought to make this kind of a presentation or suggest this kind of a presentation. Thanks.
Thank you.
Where am I? Okay. Report from the in-camera Committee of the Whole meeting of the board. Director Blazek.
The motion number 9-W15 regarding M.W. Moore School property matter be approved.
Moved by Trustee Stringer, seconded by Trustee Hunda. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Old business, previous minutes. Motion that the minutes of the Rainbow Board meeting held on Tuesday, September 24th, 2019, be approved. Moved by Trustee Morrison, seconded by Trustee Cosmerly. Trustee Stringer.
Just a clarification in the minutes on page 6 of the 8 pages, trustees' remarks. Trustee Stringer, the advice at the end, it should read, instead of the 9th annual Kenjigewanteg Fall Fair, it should read the 10th annual Fall Harvest in Chiging. Thank you.
So I will ask for the amendment as amended, that the minutes as amended, the amendment being the 9th annual Kenjigewanteg Fall Fair be amended to Chiging's 10th annual Fall Harvest.
No, in Chiging, it was a number of collaborative partners that were part of it, so amended to the 10th annual Fall Harvest in Chiging.
Okay. Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mover and seconder agreed? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Capital and accommodation plan update. I'll call on Superintendent Bazinet to just give us a brief.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This evening's update is a verbal update, and it's updating information that was presented to you on August 27th of 2019. So trustees will recall that at that meeting, we had outlined that we were waiting for approval to proceed on a number of projects that had been committed by the ministry in August of 2017. There were 5 projects. And in August, the only project that had been completed was the Confederation Secondary School Gym addition. So I'm very pleased this evening to announce that we have received the approval to proceed for 3 of the remaining 4 major capital projects. The new Sudbury JK to grade 6 French Immersion Elementary School. We have received approval to proceed for the CVDCS retrofit, converting it to a JK to grade 12 school. And we've received the approval to proceed for the Levac Public School right-sizing. Therefore, the only remaining project from the original listing of 2017 is the Churchill Public School JK to 6 renovation, of which we are currently working with the capital analyst of the Ministry of Education and proceeding to that point where we would be waiting for the approval to proceed for that project. We're hoping to finalize our portion of the submission sometime in early December.
Trustee Morrison?
Well, this is great news. And I won't say much more about that. I have a whole lot of questions, though. And I'll start with, when are we going to start the process where we're advising the communities, we're advising all those New Sudbury schools and the parents? When are we doing any consultation with people on design? So I've got a whole lot of questions related to that. And I was actually going to put a motion on the floor. If this ever came about, to basically ask us to at least send a letter to the ministry thanking them for giving us the approval to proceed. But after listening to you, Dennis, I want to ask a question on that first. Is that last project, which are the needed renovations at Churchill, because we're collapsing all those schools and we're long-term, this is great news because it's going to result, as I said initially when I voted for the motion, long-term stability in New Sudbury. There's been no new construction in that area of the city in more than 60 years. So that's one of the reasons we're consolidating those schools, is to provide long-term stability for both the English language and the French immersion programs, and of course for the high school. So Dennis, are you quite optimistic that we're going to get approval to proceed on the JK to 6? I'm not going to put you on the hook for it. The reason I'm asking the question, Dennis, I'll be more clear. I'd like to put a motion to send a letter to thank them for giving us the approval to proceed, but if the next one is likely coming in a very short term, I'll wait and do it then, as opposed to put a motion on and send a letter now and then. So I'm asking for your advice.
Well, I think just looking at the process itself on the administrative side is once we complete our work at the admin level with the capital analyst, then we're essentially waiting. And we have no control whatsoever on how long that waiting period may or may not be. When we look at the length of time it's taken to date, it could be several months.
Supplementary then.
Absolutely.
Good. So I'll wait, and I may come back to putting another motion on to send a letter to thank them. Quite clearly, we could be another 2 years waiting for an answer on the other one, is what I got from that. So thank you. But I do still have questions then that I want to ask, and it's about all of the areas, but particularly New Sudbury, because we're collapsing all those schools. And parents from those school communities have been expecting this consolidation for a couple of years now, as we know. So again, my questions are, what's the next phase of communication out to those parents groups? And when do we begin the consultation process on design? Thank you.
Is that directed at?
Whoever has the answer.
Okay. Well, I'll provide a comment. Essentially is when we speak of construction of a new school, typical time frame is 18 to 24 months. So even though we have approval for the new elementary school, given October, essentially groundwork would not be till next spring. So therefore, from that point forward, there is still time. We need to have additional discussions with Exec Council about, now that this is formally presented at a board level, what are our next steps and what are the timeframes. Therefore, I don't have detailed answers regarding that component. In terms of the design, I think what everyone needs to bear in mind is, with all the changes and restrictions that the Ministry of Education has now imposed on school boards, they have essentially encapsulated the issue of templates and design. Therefore, if there is an expectation that we can solicit a lot of input, I would unfortunately have to say that is not the realities of 2019.
Trustee Morrison?
And I certainly get that, Dennis, in terms of the context and the timing has changed, and that the paradigms in which we're operating in are quite different right now. I get that, but there's still a communication angle here, where there's maybe some expectations. Because I remember even when we built the first green school that we'd built in 50 years in the Valley, I'll just use as a little example, we got input from parents that that particular school family did a lot of outside gardening. So we learned that they needed an outdoor tap to water their garden beds and so on. Those kind of things we wouldn't necessarily have thought of if we wouldn't have spoken to the parent group. So that's why I'm asking that question. Understanding the realities, the parameters we now have to deal with, Dennis, But that's part of our communication challenge to parents, is to tell them that. We don't have a lot of flexibility anymore. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm not done, sorry.
Sorry.
There's an additional component. You'll recall also in August, we spoke to the fact that in April of 2018, we had a number of childcare projects that had been approved. However, there were 3 that remained outstanding as of August of 2019. And also a reminder that all childcare projects are joint submissions on behalf of the school board as well as the service providers, which are represented by the City of Greater Sudbury as well as the DSAB when it's outside of the City of Greater Sudbury. So 2 of the projects that are in the City of Greater Sudbury, the Algonquin Public School and the Larchwood Public School daycare projects, will not be proceeding. They essentially have been canceled. The City of Greater Sudbury, given their changes and challenges with funding reductions, we're no longer in a position to support these projects. The Little Current Public School is ongoing and is still under review, and we're working closely with DSAB in that area to examine whether or not that project can proceed. So it's still ongoing in terms of looking at design, looking at flexibility, and working with the DSAB. So we don't have a definitive answer at this point. That, Madam Chair, is conclusion.
Trustee Cosmerly?
Through you, Madam Chair, just one question, Dennis. Did we get the funding that we had requested for the projects that were approved, or has the funding been adjusted by the ministry?
The funding has been adjusted for the New Sudbury JK Grade 6 FI school. It's increased by just over $950,000. And that was as a result of working with the capital branch in our submissions for additional site costs.
Trustee Morrison?
I thank Trustee Cosme for that question, because it's now clued another one in for me. So are those increased costs? That's good news. So I'm not going to, that's a good thing. But does it also reflect the increased construction costs as a result of 2 years in delay in approval to proceed?
We have posed the question of the ministry and have yet to receive a response.
Trustee Gibson?
Thank you. Through you, Chair Dewar, to Superintendent Bazinet. So the other 2 projects, the funding has remained the same, is that correct?
Yes, the dollar values remain the same.
Thank you.
No tenders or requests for proposals. Reports and recommendations from board committees. We're looking at the audit committee. And we have a backup. And I'll call on.
Actually, I was going to speak, if I can't. You can tell me if I'm out of order.
No, that's fine. Trustee Morrison, chair of
Because
the audit.
I wasn't going to speak to audit. I was back at the accommodation stuff. I can wait. I was going to put a motion on that we send a letter
Oh, sorry.
thanking the Ministry of Education for their approval to proceed on the 3 projects. And I can do that under trustee remarks if I'm out of order.
We can put it down now. Have you got a copy of that, or would you like it written out?
That we send a letter to the Ministry of Education acknowledging and thanking them for their giving us the approval to proceed on the 3 capital projects.
Moved by trustee Morrison, seconded by trustee Cosmerly. Further questions? Could we add a little bit about encouraging them to move? Thank you very much. All in favor?
Sometimes you got to be used to the
Everybody put their hand up, carried. Okay. Now I'll call on the superintendent of business for the audit committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And yes, as you've indicated, within your package, there is a report We did have the audit committee on September 23rd of 2019, and every year in the September meeting, one of the agenda items is a presentation by KPMG, our external auditor, and they outline their approach to performing the year-end audit. So in this case, it would be the external audit plan for the 2018-2019 fiscal year, which is the year that ended August 31st, 2019. And at the audit committee, the motion was presented and carried, and therefore that's why you do see the motion for the board meeting this evening. So this essentially is an annual motion that you see every year. Thank you.
That the 2018-2019 external audit plan be approved. Moved by Trustee Morrison, seconded by Trustee Hunda. All in favor? Whoops, before I recognize the vote. Trustee Gibson?
Thank you, Chair Dewar. Through you, I'm not sure whether it's to Superintendent Basnet or the Chair of the Audit Committee. So just from looking back over the previous plans, I've seen they were available with the agenda for the meeting. Is the external audit plan available on the website or to the trustees, or the plan that we're approving? And the second part of that question is, when I looked previously, it was a multi-year plan. So is this a plan that's been ongoing and we're just approving this year, or is it now a single-year plan that we do every year?
Yeah, perhaps I'll clarify the second point first, is the external audit plan is strictly the process that the external auditor will follow for preparing the financial statements. The multi-year plan that you're referring to was a report from the internal audit, which was a multi-year plan, so very two distinct processes. So the external audit plan that is presented by KPMG, in our case, is at the committee meeting. So that report was presented and explained and distributed at the committee meeting. And further to that, we just have the motion that come forward to the board.
Okay, supplementary if I may. So when we receive the minutes of that audit meeting, it would be attached? So you'd have to be at the meeting to have seen the external audit plan, or would it be attached to the agenda or the minutes at some point?
No, it's not. It was distributed at the meeting.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
which is an open meeting.
Yes, no, I understand that. I just wondered where it ever got recorded. You'd have to be at the meeting, though, is what you're saying? Yes, in person. Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Trustee Morrison?
If I could, I would like to just make a brief comment as Chair of the Audit Committee. What is actually handed down and is reviewed is we look at the assessment factors that the external auditor, KPMG, and the team are going to use. We look at the risk factors. We agree or don't agree, or we make suggestions on some of the big items that they're going to look at. He goes through the standard operating public accounting process and procedures that we're going to meet all the guidelines, and that's basically what we approve. And then we send them off to do the work. They're now in an auditing period right now. Soon. It starts in November, I think. Sorry, I was thinking we were there already. So it starts in November. Ends with financial statements coming back to the audit committee at the beginning of December, and then coming to the board, usually the first or second week of December, with the financial statements as certified by KPMG. That's what this is about. Thank you.
And thank you. New business. Oh, sorry, did I miss somebody else? Oh, did I not vote? Okay, all in favor, please. Opposed? Thank you very much. Carried. Request for leave of absence motion that Carrie St. Jean and Colleen Govro be granted a leave of absence from the October 22nd, 2019 board meeting. Moved by Trustee Hunda, seconded by Trustee DeBozic. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Director's remarks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On Thursday and Friday of last week, we had the opportunity to participate in the Traumatic Events Systems Training at the Caruso Club, and this was facilitated by Kevin Cameron. And most of you got to meet Kevin the other day, who is a trained therapist with expertise in traumatic event responses. Where at this meeting, though, he provided step-by-step processes that highlighted the challenges associated to traumatic events that may occur in a community. And of course, he cited experiences of which we learned from, that being Tabor, Alberta, and the other one he mentioned was the Humboldt Broncos. There were 10 RDSB staff that were trained, and they were provided with the information required to facilitate a possible response to a crisis and or a traumatic event from the community. And you should know that there were over 40 community stakeholders participating in the training as well. Prior to that, earlier in the week, the precursor to what's called the TES training, we had the Violent Threat Risk Assessment Protocol signed off. And of course, in this account, there were at least 23 community stakeholders participating in the signing. This is the most to date, so we're very proud of that. And I'd like to thank all of the trustees that participated in the Kevin Cameron opportunity last Wednesday. On Wednesday of last week as well, I had the opportunity, along with Chair Doer, she attended with me, to a Joan Mantle Music Trust announcement held at Sudbury Secondary School. And once again, it was really thrilling to see how impact this trust has had on music students in our Rainbow schools. As you well know, over $250,000 has been raised to date. But I wanted to highlight two students that they spoke to the impact of music on their lives. And it was not only heartwarming to hear, but it illustrates how music can be the catalyst for how a student maintains the drive to continue their education. That became very evident, and it was extremely evident when a secondary student spoke to it. It was probably the only reason why he was coming to school was for the love of music, and it was introduced to him at that point at grade 9. So I thank so much to the organizer of the event, but hats off, and I know we do this frequently, but I'm going to continue to do so. But Mr. Ralph McIntosh, what a tremendous asset he is in terms of for the RDSB and to, of course, the community. It's just an awesome, awesome person. On Monday of this week, I know all of you are aware that we had a PD date, and again, though, we had opportunities for staff to be involved in a range of activities. Some of those include BMS training and of course, school improvement planning. So there's a huge range in there. Depending on the role, of course, staff continue to reestablish certifications and also revisit their school plans and continue to update those plans based on the latest data provided by EQAO. The next PD day is, of course, on Friday, November the 22nd. And it's just really important to note that how much data plays a part in our school improvement planning. It is the basis from which we move most of our planning going forward. It's not something we've done in the past. I would suggest to you in the last 10 years, it's dramatically shift our thinking in terms of how we provide services and programming. Okay. I also want to just highlight, and this is as it relates to last night, of course, some of you may have been aware that there was something happening in that there was an election. And so I have the student vote. So the student vote, some of you may be aware of this. So there were, and we were participants in this, and it was, of course, it was optional for schools, and we invited our schools. And I can't tell you which ones did participate, but I can give you an idea of what the results are for Sudbury and for Nickel Belt. But I will tell you, as a whole, as of it was midday yesterday, there were 1,187,000 votes, representing 8,000 schools, with the results from 338 federal ridings. Like the adults, the students elected a liberal minority government, but like the adults, the Conservatives had the most votes. The Liberals won the most seats, 110, followed by the NDP at 99. The Liberals won the most seats, 110, followed by the NDP, 99, the Conservatives, 94, Green Party, 28, and Bloc Québécois at 9 seats. And of course, you know, there were many, many tight races. Now, they also allow you to look into the provinces and your own ridings. And so when I looked into the Nickel Belt and to the Sudbury riding, in the Nickel Belt area, 29 schools out of a possible 38, representing 1,700 students, they actually chose the NDP. And for Sudbury, again, 27 schools reporting out of an eligible 29, 3,500 students voting. They voted NDP as well. So it's kind of interesting to see where the kids were coming from. But it was just really interesting because one of the things that we've noticed, though, it was traditionally a much more, I would say, a green type of intervention in terms of our students, which is not surprising when you can see where our kids are coming from in terms of their perspective. So I thought I'd just share that with you because I thought it was so intriguing that, A, first of all, we participated, but B, the results echoed, maybe for different reasons, the provincial and, of course, the federal results. So, Madam Chair, that's my report today.
Thank you very much. Trustee Gibson?
Thank you, Chair Gio. Through you to Director Blazek. I was just wondering, you mentioned the school improvement plans being informed by data. I was just wondering, could you briefly cover the sources of that data? Are you talking about EQAO or other things?
Typically, it is their EQAO results, and so we received those, and you may recall we presented some of that data in the last couple of weeks. So on the heels of that, it is the first day that we actually get an opportunity to really dig into those, into the meat of that work, and trying to derive for each of our individual schools what direction we should be taking. Because in that data, and it's more than just hearing about whether we're level 3 or level 4, it gives individual results as well, and you look for patterns and trends. And that dictates for your school some of the challenges associated with programming. And it's really about rolling up the sleeves and getting into the meat of it to figure out what our next steps are. So that's what happens when we do the school improvement planning, as based on a per site basis.
Thank you. The reason I asked is because you see a lot of talk out there about getting rid of EQAO and whether it's worth the money. So it's always good to hear that that data comes back and we're using it to make plans, and it has its usefulness. Thank you.
Thank you. The OPSPA delegate report.
Madam Chair, September 27th, 28th, we were in Toronto for our meetings. Always on the Friday evenings, the Northern Boards get together, and we are still working on our theme for Northern Ontario, which is graduation rates. This was started 3 years ago, and we've gone through our third minister for this. So the next day, Minister of Education, Lichy, he was very good compared to the last one anyways. But he didn't take any questions or anything like this year, so we didn't get a whole lot of that, except that he's very much in support of schools. But when he left, the Northern boards always sit together in one spot, and he shook the hand of every Northern Ontario person when he left. He did take a couple of questions from us as he was leaving, and he's hoping to come to one of our Northern directors meetings soon. He couldn't make the North Bay one, or Thunder Bay one, because of course he's up to his ears in negotiations, so he was quite busy. If you go onto your OPSA website, you'll see again a summary of everything. One of the things that I want to bring up was the Indigenous education, reciprocal education approach. Chief Johnson from Algoma is on that committee with the government, and what came out of that was really disappointing. This is the Truth and Reconciliation booklet. This is what we got here from Manitoba, a little booklet they were given out to. Was 62-1, make age-appropriate curriculum on residential schools, treaties, and Aboriginal peoples' historical and contemporary contributions to Canada and mandatory education requirements for kindergarten to grade 12. They haven't done that. They're not going to do that. It was very disappointing to hear that. It's right here in the steps for reconciliation, and already they've blown that part of it. So we're really disappointed. We also went to the weekend right after that. We went to Thunder Bay to the Northern Directors meeting there. Again, our theme was graduation rates, and we all had summaries, and we had a very good summary from our board about graduation rates and using graduation coaches, and we're using that, and everybody has a little bit different theme on that and how we do that. but apparently it's really working very well in a lot of boards. So they want to continue with that, and that's one of the things that we are working with in the north and trying to get a hold of the ministry, this new government, that we want that recognition for the north. The north, the rules, a lot of the rules they make down south do not necessarily achieve the goals that we want here in Northern Ontario. When you close a school in Toronto, you move 10 blocks. When you close a school in Northern Ontario, you move 25 kilometers. So trying to get that across to them is sometimes very hard. I was very glad to hear that we have had that money for our renewal, because they said to us down south, I think I'd mentioned that to you, Dennis, that was a $13 billion some kind of pot, he said, that everybody was applying to. We are very lucky we got that money, because a lot of the boards have told me they've had to do a rewrite. So they're not getting money until it's all redone again. So at least we're moving forward. So that's my report, Madam Chair. Thank you. Oh, one more thing. Sorry. Sorry. And at the end of the November, we're going to get together again, the directors, but this time we're doing a meet and greet with our MPPs at Queen's Park. So that's going to be kind of interesting too. Thank you. I think I'm done.
Well, all good stuff. Thank you very much, Trustee Clement. Trustees' remarks? Trustee Morrison.
Just a very brief comment, because I just want to pick up on something that Trustee Clement just talked about. I mean, we know that the lack of commitment to truth and reconciliation, the commitment to Indigenous education, the curriculum writing team, when that was canceled, when they were just about to begin their work, there's been a lot of bad messages. But just on a positive note, I watched a video this morning from Cyril Varney, and they were showing videos, and they had a grandmother in who's a residential school survivor. And I saw a bunch of kids sitting around this grandmother with very enwrapped faces as they were sharing stories of a residential school experience. So I just want to share that, and I know Kathy isn't, I don't see Kathy here, but I just know that we have a board have committed to both Truth and Reconciliation Action Plan, all the consultation that has been done with our First Nations community, and I'm just happy that every time I'm in one of my schools, I see it in action, regardless of what's occurring at the provincial level. And I hope you're able to carry that back, Bob, to our colleagues in other areas. The fact that in spite of what they're doing at the provincial level, we know it's the right thing to do, regardless of what they do at the top. They represent more than 20% of our kids. And as we just went through the AQAO results, we know if we can make an improvement on First Nation educational outcomes, it improves the outcomes for our entire board. So if you could share that, Bob, with your colleagues, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
And I thank you very much, Trustee Morrison. That was extremely well put, and much appreciated that you said that. We will continue on the Rainbow Board with our own focus, our own aims, our own goals, and they are always the student. So the rest, the provincial ministry will catch up someday. Trustees' remarks. Trustee Cosmerly.
Just one quick reminder that October the 29th, it's Screenagers. It's an event put on by the PIC committee. So just encouraging people to attend.
I'm going to jump in with the chairperson's remarks before everything that I've got down here has been taken away. And I want to start the chairperson's remarks by saying that I had a comment to make on the Joan Mantle Music Trust. And I also had a comment to make on the signing of the Community Threat Assessment Protocol. So now I'm going to go right ahead and go with circle your calendars. Rainbow District School Board's Parent Involvement Committee is going to host its annual general meeting on Tuesday, October 29th at 6 p.m. I'd really like to encourage as many trustees as possible to attend and meet these dedicated members of our school councils. They really, they commit to putting in a lot of time. They're all busy people with their own families and so on. And it's very nice to have this opportunity to see them and to meet with them. The same night That is at 6 o'clock on the same night, but at 7 o'clock, a special presentation of the documentary Screenagers, Growing Up in the Digital Age will take place in the Sheridan Auditorium. So the PIC AGM is in the library of Sudbury Sec, and then we just go down the hall to the Sheridan Auditorium. Would it surprise you to know that we spend an average of 6.5 hours per day staring at screens? And that doesn't include schoolwork time. Or teenage boys spend on average 11.3 hours per week playing video games. That's scary. Following the presentation, Marcus Schwabe will moderate a panel discussion, including our very own mental health lead for Rainbow Schools. Help me, Mary Jo. Jago. Mary Jago. It will also, this panel will also have a pediatrician from Neo Kids, a representative from Public Health, and a technology expert from Laurentian University. So it should be a really wonderful evening. From November the 4th to the 8th, Rainbow Schools will be celebrating Treaty Recognition Week as staff and students continue to learn about the histories, cultures, contributions, and perspectives of First Nation, Métis, and Inuit people of Canada. Activities and lessons throughout the week will create awareness about treaties and treaty relationships. On Wednesday, November the 6th, grade 9 students in Rainbow Schools will spend the day at work, job shadowing a parent, relative, friend, or volunteer host as part of the national Take Our Kids to Work program. We thank area businesses for opening their doors and welcoming our students to their workplaces. On Tuesday, November the 12th at 7 p.m., in the Cambrian College Student Center, Rainbow District School Board will host an information session for students making the transition from elementary to secondary schools. On Friday, November 15th, staff and students are welcome to wear their favorite pair of moccasins to recognize and to highlight the importance of Indigenous identity. Members of the community are invited, reminded, and encouraged to drop off gently used winter clothing items at any Rainbow School in Sudbury, Espanola, and Manitoulin Island from now until November the 8th. And this is an effort that is very well supported, but we have a lot of needy children that can use these items of clothing. Close with the thought for the month, and it actually comes as a result of, I decided I thought I'd look for a quote that had to do with the digital age. I mean, that kind of fits in with the whole theme. Almost everything I found, though, was extremely lengthy, or it was just plain confusing. So I don't know who the author is, pardon me, but here's a quote that is short and that I personally can relate to. Texting is a brilliant way to miscommunicate how you feel and misinterpret what other people mean. Thank you very much. Take a moment and take a look at the, oh, sorry. Oh, the information and proposals. The report, well, I just want to point out reports that are attached to the agenda. And when, I guess you have something on future meetings, I ask you to check future meetings and tell us. Trustee Hunda. Okay, so we'll change that when we do up the minutes. Environmental Education Committee meeting, November 20th, 3:30 at the Center for Education. Any other problems with any of the other meetings that we do now adjourn? Moved by Trustee Morrison, seconded by Trustee Hunda. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.